Congress, the House specifically, not surprisingly, brought up a resolution of support for Israel. The vast majority of congressional members in the House voted for it, but there were some dissenters. There were about 15, about 10 that actually opposed it, and then 5 that voted present, which is effectively not voting for it. All but one were Democrats, and that goes against the party leadership. And if you're voting against this kind of resolution, you're effectively saying Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself.
Right. Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Bedford, and I'm here with magazine editor David Mark. David, Democrats are in disarray over Israel and Palestine. Give us the lay of the land. Who is getting in trouble lately, and what are they doing?
Yeah, in the wake of this horrible violence in the Middle East, after the terrorism by Hamas terrorists, militants, against Israeli civilians and soldiers that killed 1,400 people, Congress, the House specifically, not surprisingly, brought up a resolution of support for Israel. The vast majority of congressional members in the House voted for it, but there were some dissenters. There were about 15, about 10 that actually opposed it, and then 5 that voted present, which is effectively not voting for it. All but one were Democrats, and that goes against the party leadership. And if you're voting against this kind of resolution, you're effectively saying Israel doesn't have a right to defend itself.
Right. Rashida Tlaib, a Democratic member of the Squad, has been in trouble for some of the sort of Hamas sympathy that some people have accused her of, but an effort to censure her in the House failed. What happened there?
This was a rather clumsy attempt to censor Tlaib, who is probably the most outspoken Israel foe in the House. She made all kinds of false claims about the bombing of the hospital in Gaza that turned out to be an errant rocket by Palestinian Islamic Jihad rather than the Israeli Defense Forces. She kept that up. She's guilty of all kinds of slanders against Israel, but the actual resolution that came up in the House was just false. It accused her of inciting an insurrection because of some protesters that had come that I don't think she even had anything to do with in the House. It was poorly written, and even a bunch of Republicans voted against it.
The White House is really focusing on combating Islamophobia, which they've been talking more and more about. Do you think that the White House is sort of striking the right balance between appeasing leftists who are mad at Biden for being so pro-Israel and, sort of emboldening a wing of the party that's so controversial?
Overall, I think it's been pretty good. I think the Biden White House had an excellent start. President Biden, of course, flew to Israel just a few days after the attacks. Their public statements were 98, 99% fully in support of Israel. It has wavered somewhat. There's been more talk about humanitarian needs in Gaza, which of course any reasonable, decent thinking person would be for. But you also have to counter that with the self-proclaimed intentions of Hamas to kill more Israelis and Westerners when they could possibly get a chance to. So just saying you're in favor of humanitarian needs for Gaza is not necessarily enough. So I think the Biden administration is feeling that pressure. But overall, I think it's still been pretty good on behalf of Israel.
Well, David, thanks so much for being here today. You can get more reporting from David and the rest of the political team at washingtonexaminer.com.